Welcome back to Continuing the Conversation, where we bring you authentic AI insights. I'm your host, Chelene Martin, AI enthusiast, business strategist, and co-founder of Revenue Pulse Advisors. I work with individuals and companies to unlock practical, powerful ways to use AI every day in life and work. Last week, OpenAI held their Dev Day, and everyone got so excited about apps in chat, Canva in ChatGPT, Zillow in ChatGPT, Spotify. The tech world was buzzing about how convenient this would be. But Rob, you had a very different reaction when we spoke, and I thought it was mind-blowing. So while everyone else was celebrating, you called it a platform trap. So what did we all miss in this supposed excitement? I'm dying to hear. I want to jump right into it. Let's start with those that maybe missed Dev Day. What OpenAI actually announced?
Thanks for that. This one was really interesting when we watched it last week. OpenAI, and there's a few online videos that you can watch. So I highly recommend go look up OpenAI apps. What you have the ability to do now is, and this is going to grow with time. So as always in AI, what you're seeing now is the worst that it's ever going to be. You have the ability to effectively talk with different products that you have. So some of the examples that they showed were Zillow. Some of the examples online that you can see are with Figma and Canva. And basically what you can do is type out a prompt like, let's say, hey, I'm looking for homes, blah, 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 et cetera, that match something else in the rest of my discussion. Mm-hmm. And then you can basically slash, or I forget which key it is that you use for Zillow. And then Zillow will basically pop up a little widget right within your chat in the window as you're going, and then you can interact with that. And what's more than that, so just again, imagine a little, for example, Zillow shows you the homes that you search for. There may be functionality in there where you can zoom in or sub-select things. I think they showed like find 3-bedroom homes and those kind of things. And then once you've made those selections within the widget, you can continue your conversation in the chat and your dude will know about the selections that you made in that chat. And they did basically the same thing with Canva, where they basically had a discussion about like a dog something or other. And then they were like, well, help me create a pitch deck for this company. And then Canva came up with slides within the chat window, within the conversation of this. So the way at the most minimum, the way to think about it, and the way that I was kind of contextualizing it was those little widgets that you get on your iPhone or Android that aren't the full app, but they're like the small version of it that'll give you just like at a glance information, like when your Uber's going to arrive or like where it is and so forth. And there's some minimal interaction. And you'll have that within your chat window. So any questions with that? Just like conceptually, it takes a moment to like think about what that means.
Yeah. So like how it works today is you like say, I just got back from my trip to Hawaii and I was doing something quickly and I was trying to plan out my trip and I was like, what are the top 10 restaurants I shouldn't miss while I'm there? And it would give me some responses, but it would just have like a link to Yelp or a link to TripAdvisor, right? And I'd click on that link and then I'd be brought out to that full experience. So now you're saying that's more of a widget experience?
Yes, that's great. That is why that we have you doing this show, Chelene. Is I'm always deep in the technical mumbo jumbo of these things, but like, let's talk through the user experience.
Yeah.
So, and this will come up really important later as we go through this discussion. So you normally think of the Google view of the world, right? That's how ChatGPT and everyone's been going along so far. You bark out some orders, it comes up with some response, and you got some links to stuff that you go to. With this new experience, it's not just the links anymore. You'll actually get, again, that in-chat experience from that product vendor of whatever they decided that they wanted to show you. So if, for example, Etsy, you could imagine that you would see directly in there some of the product listings and you could further deep dive and scroll and click and so forth. Wow. And so, yeah, we're moving from that Google-esque view to this. And we have so much we can talk about now with that. We can talk about the technical side. We can talk about the product side, but I really want to talk about this because I have a company like CharmIQ. I'm always thinking about brand. And I've worked in advertising for years. I worked in ad tech and MarTech. And I'm always thinking about what what is best for the brand or whatever that you're experiencing. And what's so crazy, I'm going to go off in the weeds for a quick moment here, but I want to remind folks what's happened over the past 2 years. Because remember, 2 years ago, we didn't have any of these things.
Yeah.
And today, or again, last week, we just had a new thing injected upon us that we have to think about. So I'm going to speak for a moment from the perspective of like a well-known product company that you use. So take, for example, Google or Notion or Figma or Canva, any of the big name kind of .coms that you think about that you use all the time, that are just part of your daily existence. Again, the Zillows and the LinkedIns and all those things. Typically, as those people, your job is to produce whatever your thing is, right? So for Canva, it's got a website, you go to it, you produce slides, you create presentations, like you create collateral and all this other stuff. Each one of those, you have that job, right?
Yep.
And then if you think about it, every one of those product companies has to have a mobile experience, right? And not only do you have to have a mobile experience, you have to have 3 mobile experiences.
Yes.
You have iPhone, you typically have an app. You have Android, you typically have an app. And then you have the mobile web experience, which again is typically completely different. So not only do you have your main product, and some people even have a desktop version of that. So you can get Canva for desktop or Figma for desktop or Riverside as we're using here for desktop. And so you have your main product, you have these 3 mobile experiences that were kind of thrust upon you 20 years ago when Steve Jobs decided that this was a thing. And so, yay. And then if you remember a couple years ago, as I mentioned earlier, there's now these widgets on your iPhone apps. Again, a few years ago, you had a team that would just build a product, but now you have a team that builds the main product. Now you have 3 separate teams that are building the mobile experience on 3 separate things. And then all of a sudden they came out with another thing. So you have a sub team that's like sub building another application. That's another experience. And so that's typically the main thing. And then just less than a year ago, MCP, the Model Context Protocol, came out. Oh, wait, I should say almost before that, when ChatGPT came out, everyone realized that they had to dump AI into their product. So, right, if you're Canva, you now have to have a sidebar that you like talk to your goofy dude that does stuff. And you have to like have all this AI-y stuff, right? So again, you had a product and you had all these mobile experiences that you dealt with. And then all of a sudden it was thrust upon you that you have to integrate AI into it somehow. So you have to have a chatbot in there. Yep. And then also you have to think about like how to like work your dudes in AI. So not just like the chatbot, like how do you like make that experience like AI forward? Yep. So like that's only been about 2 years. Then, as I was saying, the Model Context Protocol came about. And all of a sudden now everyone is starting to expose their product through this interface, which we all thought it was just going to be REST to start, which is the standard way that you talk between applications is called the REST APIs. And those are very prescriptive APIs. So like, get me the list of drawings that I have in Figma, etc. Right? Like think of it as just like a phone book, if you will, of like, how do I find things in my system as they are? But that's not how MCP works. The way MCP works is you have some chatbot on one side and you want to provide basically experiences through there. So you want to do things like if you're Canva, if you talk through MCP, you want to be like, well, create a slideshow. So it's not just show me the slideshows I have or create slideshow like the box that is the slideshow. It's like literally take context that I have and do it. Yep. So we were thrust upon us all that are doing products to think about our product in a completely new way that we never thought about it in a market that's evolving. That's like, we don't know how people are going to try to use this through MCP, but if you're anybody right now, you have to have an MCP interface for your product, which means you just spun up a whole team that maybe it's a dude, maybe it's a couple of dudes, but like to think through this thing on top of the fact that you're trying to redesign your whole product to be like AI centric and all these other things. And again, then just last week, OpenAI is like, well, no, we have a new way that you're going to look at your thing. You're going to have this minimal experience that's going to be present in a chat of somebody else's chat application. So the first thing my partner said is like, wait, I don't understand. Like I go into Figma and they did integration with ChatGPT. And I'm like, no, it's the other way now. It's like you're bringing Canva into ChatGPT. You're not bringing ChatGPT into Canva. Right. So now, if you're a product company, you went just wait. I have to like, it's Q4. I don't have any money because this is the time of the year where everyone's budget runs out. And now a new thing came to light. I have to think about this too on top of it. So I'll just pause there in that whole.
Yeah. So, I mean, It's overwhelming. And I hear from tech leaders every day that they're already overwhelmed, right? Just trying to integrate AI, like maybe what they were probably doing about 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. Now you're saying they have three separate challenges to tackle simultaneously, and it doesn't really even sound like it's a full brand experience for them. So,
That's a great point. Okay, that moves us into the next thing, which is,
okay.
as a brand, you are constantly trying to differentiate what you are from
Yes.
everyone else, right? So everyone talks about like the LinkedIn post effect, right? Like if you're on LinkedIn, you have to write your posts that look like LinkedIn. You
Yeah.
have to sound like LinkedIn. Even though everyone that I talk to hates LinkedIn style, everyone knows that when you're on LinkedIn, you have to do it in that style. And that's the way LinkedIn is. And
Yep.
I always bring up the example of Slack versus Discord versus like internet
Mhm.
messaging. Even though all of them behind the scenes are exactly the same technology, you still have a different way that you have to like visually look at it. Slack is visually different than, for example, GChat, which are two completely fundamentally different approaches.
Yes.
So those brand experiences are extremely central to you. Because again, if you peel that back, you could make Slack look exactly like GChat, and you can make GChat look exactly like Slack. Again, with some tweaks. Behind the scenes, it's the same stuff. So brands really, really protect who they are. And the moment that you take that experience, and I remember again when the iPhones came out and everyone's like, there's no way people are going to build apps because you have to take your existing thing and you're going to have to build it in this little thing. And then you're part of this ecosystem. And how do I differentiate when my button is exactly next to somebody else's button?
Yeah.
And now we just did the exact same thing again. And again, what's so mind boggling about this is none of the kids know because they weren't around when any of this happened the first time. And I think all the people my age are just like, they're so tired. They're just like, we went through this already. We took brick and mortar and we put them on websites, and then websites had to become interactive applications that are websites. And then that had to become mobile. And now this AI thing happened and we thought we were almost done. And then now this thing comes in and it's so polluting the brand. And again, going back to ad tech, it is so important. Like there are so many things that you do when you're advertising, whether you're on a publisher site or as an advertiser, you say what things you don't want to be near. So the standard example that everyone has is like, no one wants to be on porn sites. Like you do not want your product to appear on that thing. So like you have lists of things where you say you can and can't appear and like all this other stuff. And now all of a sudden you're potentially within a chat app where they could be talking about goodness knows what, and then your widget's just jammed in there. So your brand experience is like jammed right next to the other brand experience. And you're like, and this is the thing that really, I would say again, as a product facing person, this is like the worrying thing, which is OpenAI can just simply dial up and down which one of these dudes is going to be the one that really is the one that you want to talk to. And so when you look at Google 2.0 has to happen soon, right? Like we've had Google for years and we all know that approach, as soon as ChatGPT came out and everything else, is like starting to go away. As Chelene said earlier, right? You started off with lists of things, and now if you're going to have a widget, this like completely did that. This was like that step into that direction of like, and let me just roll that back. There's nothing that prevented Google from years ago from having widgets on their website. But the reason they didn't, Chelene, any idea as to why? Because you were at Yahoo, you had the exact same problem. Like what do brands say with that kind of a thing?
Brands were like, hey, no way, right? Like they would pay for placement and sponsorships, but they wanted that user experience to be fully them. Also from a competitive advantage.
Yes.
And, doing so many years in business development was, what's the payment? Am I paying you? Are you paying me? Is it a founder fee? Like, what are we talking here?
Yeah. So that's exactly the problem. That's why they didn't appear in Google ever, right? It's like no brand is ever going to be like, yeah, slap my Etsy thing right next to the Amazon Prime thing. So people are literally scrolling. Like that's why you as a consumer are forced to go somewhere else. That's why on your phone, you are forced to go to like the Southwest app versus the United app versus whatever, because everyone wants their own individual brand experience.
Yes.
And again, I would just say like, I'm going to be wrong, but if I had to say today, again, having gone through the internet era, having gone into publishers and them standing there going, son, I've been publishing newspapers for 100 years. Like this internet thing is not a thing. So I'm going to play that role for a minute and just say, given everything that I just said, there is no way in hell, other than a few tech people, that are going to create widgets in apps to go within OpenAI, because you are not going to pollute your brand experience and put it in an environment in which you cannot control, because that has never happened ever in the history of time. But given the fact that I'm saying that, you know for a fact that in a year we're going to be going, what the hell happened to the brand experience? It's polluted into this mess of God only knows whatever happened.
Right. And I think the companies have spent billions of dollars building the brand, differentiating themselves, not wanting to be compared with other brands because they've set themselves apart, right? Now you're leaving it to OpenAI and a chatbot to serve up whatever whoever pays the most or pays the least or has the most users or whatever that quotient might be, whatever that algorithm might be. And if everyone's becomes the same, like a widget in the same interface, like what happens to that competitive advantage? And how do companies differentiate when all their just widgets are in someone else's platform? And that's kind of if there's leadership people and CEOs and marketing people listening to this and you missed Dev Day, you're like,
yeah. And what the reason we're specifically doing this podcast is I'm not seeing any of that. I get the fact that the US government is currently shut down and we've got wars going on, and I'm not trying to minimize all that in like our usual 5-minute attention spans on everything else. But like, right. I thought this one was going to be a bigger something, because this one hit me in the pit of my gut. And I'm just like, as OpenAI, I don't know how you had the chutzpah to do this. Because again, if you know brands in any way, shape, or form, you know that this is going to be the worst thing possible. But again, on the flip side, you know that everyone is desperately trying to figure out what in the devil this is. So I remember when influencer marketing first started a couple of years ago, right? And everyone is just trying to like, what is this? Like, I've got teenage kids coming in here demanding free products for like whatever. And then some companies like did amazing with it. And I think the exact same thing is going to happen here, which is like, again, they have enough money. They went to the big players and they said like, look, you got to partner with us. You got to do this thing. We're going to make this a thing. And again, I can't imagine that like Canva like was just like, yay, I want to dilute my brand experience in your crazy platform that we have no control over. Right. Or again, there was a bunch of the 20-year-olds that are just like, look, I can do cool stuff. And just like, no one ever thought about it.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like that's what happens. You go in, you pick some brands to launch with, you really brand it up, you make it really lucrative for them. You're going to get new users you had never exposed to, but then the story changes 3 months in, 6 months in, 1 year in, financially, contract wise. I mean, I've seen it all, especially from going from desktop to mobile during those days. Yeah.
And I'll be just, again, to our audience, like we should really put out the timeline. Let's check back in 3 months and see what happens. So, or maybe again, due to the lack of communication about this at all, indicates the fact that it isn't going anywhere. Again, I don't know. It's just like, it was such a weird thing to be such a primary focus of Dev Day, because OpenAI has to differentiate themselves somehow. They 100%. Have to. And the number one thing that they teach you, and the thing to always remember, is Altman is like Mr. Y Combinator. So like he knows what the pitches are. And the standard pitch is you have to create your own ecosystem, right? You have to create your own marketplace.
Yep.
GPTs went nowhere. So if you read the discussion boards, everyone's like, what is this? Like, we thought this is what GPTs were going to be. We could create our custom experience and you could communicate with it. And that just seems to have died.
Yeah.
And like, there's this thing now. And I wonder if we're going to be talking about the exact same thing in 3 months where we're like, well, what happened to the app experiences?
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes and the evolution of it. It's such a big part of my background and something I'm very passionate with, representing publishers, representing brands, representing companies, and to see what OpenAI does with it. And if they are able to go beyond the Google experience, which I think I'm already feeling like looking back on it right now, is it's like sort of like a dinosaur, right? I mean, that's how it feels to me. And maybe if there's a bunch of smart people doing it, how do they preserve that brand identity? How does it preserve that uniqueness that they've built and poured billions of dollars into?
Yes. Yeah. And so what I would just say is, and again, listeners right in, because I can't think of a single platform. You look at like Disney Plus, you look at Apple TV, you look at Roku, all of them match the mobile experience, which is this, again, you're just a button in a thing. I can't even think of two channels, so you can tell how out of date I am. But like, there's no world in which I split screen two channels on my TV, because like the brands won't allow that. So again,
Right.
for me to have, Canva and Gamma literally sitting next to each other in a chat window, brands do that for a reason.
Yeah.
If people can think of a comparable experience, I'd love to hear it, because I agree with Chelene. From a consumer standpoint, this stuff, you're in a dinosaur age. Why can't I mix and match? Why aren't all these things possible? And then you look from the product side and you're like, there's no way in hell I'm going to let you get anywhere near my brand and the thing that I'm creating for you.
Yeah, that's so true. That you're right. I can't think of one either. At first I thought, oh, Red Zone, but that's the NFL. They own all those games. They own all that experience, right? There is no. Yeah, and you're right. Like, I remember working with some of the top automotive brands and the top retail brands, and they never wanted to be pitted next to each other, associated with each other, around each other.
Nope.
Because they've spent so much money differentiating themselves, right, into that experience. I can't wait to see. I mean, it's like, if it's in true AI fashion, it's going to be quick. We're going to see, they're going to throw it out there and be like, this is what worked, this is what didn't, now we're going to change it up. So widgets, they might evolve. I don't know.
All I would say on the backside of this is, like, in terms of a gamut, we clearly have Google and the dinosaur of the thing that we've been used to. And then we clearly have this, which is like, no one's ever done this before.
Right.
And clearly the answer is going to be somewhere in the middle, because it can't be more than this, because otherwise brands lose complete control.
Right.
So like, we've set the bookends. So now is the time, like, if you're a product company out there, like, now is the time to start innovating and figuring out what the devil is that middle ground in which this is all going to start to happen.
Yeah. So product leaders, business leaders, what should they actually be doing about this? How should they be thinking? Is the answer, is it to refuse to participate or to fully embrace it? I mean, what's the smart strategic response for, like, let's call this phase one, right? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, man, this one's tough, right? Because you don't want to be on the wrong side of history on this one.
Right.
Again, I give kudos to the Canvas and the Zillows and so forth. They went way out on a limb with this one. Because again, this one, if you're on the inside and you know what we're talking about, if you're nodding your head vigorously, you know that this was a step towards the dark side that brands never wanted to get to. So like, the fact that a bunch of big ones did it, I don't know. Again, my whole statement on this thing is like, I'm not hearing any of the discussion that I'm having anywhere. Again, either it was a launch that exploded and no one knows about, or the worst part is, because people aren't talking about it, it may just get silent traction, because there's a whole bunch of people that are like, holy crap. And I remember that, again, when this happened, when mobile came out, you had it, because it happened so quickly after the web came out, that there were so many people that were like, well, I missed the web, like, I gotta jump on this thing. Right. And so that may happen here, is like, I miss getting AI in my product, I better get my product as a widget within ChatGPT. They have 600 million daily active users and like all this stuff. Like, I need to do this.
Yeah. And I can't imagine in any realm that OpenAI would give exclusivity to anyone, A, because they care too much about the user, B, that's not AI thinking, right? That's not AI philosophy, strategy, anything. So, you could have Ford walk in and be like, I'll happy to participate, but I don't want Chevy in there. I don't want any other.
Right. And that's another one. You touched on it, which is exclusivity. That always happens on these platforms. There's always exclusivity. So what do? How does OpenAI deal with that? Because they desperately want everyone in there.
They do, because Spotify's in there, Pandora should be in there, Apple Music should be in there. So exclusivity is probably not even on the table. And it's more of like, come one, come all. And then it's the fear of not participating, having FOMO, right, of this taking off, or possibly the widget understanding that it won't work. So it has to be pay to play in terms of differentiation, right? Full experiences, half experiences, full throttle experiences. My mind is just going.
Absolutely. Yeah, this one's exciting. We'll probably do a whole other podcast on just like the technology, and just to give like a little taste. So I'll always just bring up the fact that we at Charm do things very, very differently than a very linear chat window. The thing that I'm going to leave you with before we wrap this up is the reason the conceptual model doesn't work, right? because the problem with a chat, and every one of us do it with widgets within IM and all these other things, is once you've scrolled up, what does it mean when it's 4 pages back, right? Like, what does that mean? If I start interfacing and interacting with a widget that's like 4 scrolls back, because that was where I did my Zillow window that I had my stuff, how do I continue that experience at the bottom of the chat? And this is where I'll just say, well, that's why we're nonlinear here at Charm.
Right.
We do have applications. And what's great for Charm is all of this is an open standard. So once these widgets start becoming more widespread, we're just going to use the same darn widgets in our platform. And there's zero differentiation for OpenAI. All we'll say at Charm is like, thank you, because we get the benefit from all this. So like, I am super stoked from the Charm standpoint, because again, you're going to be in your Charm document, you're going to be bringing up your Zillow thing. You don't have this problem of the fact that you've now had 20, 30 messages after that completely pollute the chat. You have no idea how you're going to re-interface with the thing that's up there. In Charm, you're just like, go up there and you start using the things like you do today. Right. So again, like not only did they build an environment and start to build an ecosystem that I don't think brands are going to get on. And if they do, it fundamentally means something completely different than we're ready for. Even if that works, I don't think the user experience works. Because again, like it's up there. Like again, it just doesn't make sense. So like, what the hell are they doing?
Right, you're right. And does the widget translate back to the platform either in the mobile app or in the desktop version?
Yeah, right. So what I do in there, is it the same one? Like if I created the slideshow, does it show up in the other ones? And again,
do I have
14
to
pages up.
Yeah, this is, wow, Rob, this has been a crucial wake-up call. And, you know, for those that caught it, right, for those got to see Dev Day and we're celebrating the convenience of apps and chat, you revealed a strategic trap that's being set or potentially being set. And companies are being asked to voluntarily reduce themselves to back end service to someone else's platform. Being in that business for many, many years, that is a very big ask for especially large Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 organizations. So I'm excited to continue this conversation with you and to see the evolution of it and to see how it evolves, because we both know evolution is there. It's not going to stay these widgets. I can guarantee you that I know. So for everyone watching, if you're a business leader or you work for a tech company, this isn't just about building another widget, because trust me, you already have 5 that you've built. It's about understanding a fundamental shift in platform power. And the decisions being made right now, whether to participate, how to participate, and what to expose will shape the competitive dynamics for months, weeks, and years to come. So this is exactly the kind of strategic insight that separates leaders who see around corners from those that just follow trends. So Rob, thank you. This has been an amazing conversation, very eye-opening, and I bet a lot of people listening actually missed it. So like Rob said, go back and pull up those videos. They're everywhere, and take a look at the OpenAI presentation on this. So to kind of get yourself up to speed, and come back and re-listen to this podcast, because I promise you we'll definitely be continuing this conversation. Links to CharmIQ and our previous conversations are below. Join us next time. We look forward to seeing you. And please, as always, comment, like, and share. We love hearing from you. Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Rob.
Bye.
Bye.